Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. If you are joining me live, please, you already know the routine. Do me a quick favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, tag Lolly Dolly, everybody, and let them know that your boy, Ramonepreston, my squad, we alive right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of the A, the T, and the L. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Ramonepreston Show. Please do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, tag Lolly, Dolly, everybody, and let them know that the Ramonepreston Show is live right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta. Today is Tuesday, July the 25th, 2023, and you are watching the Ramonepreston Show. Be sure to tag somebody. Be sure to text, tweet, I don't know, thread somebody. Let them know that the Ramonepreston Show is live, and tell them, especially if you have some entrepreneurs in your circle, tell them that we're going to be talking about how to use a holding company, how to use a holding company. The holding company concept is one of the most popular concepts that I teach my students, that I work with my mentees on. We have such an overwhelming response from people on a day-to-day basis wanting to know more about how to start and how to structure, and at some point, how to scale a holding company. Most entrepreneurs are familiar with LLCs. Most entrepreneurs probably know their way around getting an EIN number, going to the Secretary of State where they live, and obtaining articles of organization for their LLCs. Most entrepreneurs are familiar with that. If they're not, they probably go to certain platforms that are very popular, or maybe they know somebody who knows how to file and form the paperwork for them, and they get them to do it. But what most entrepreneurs don't know is that when you are starting your typical LLC, it is an operating LLC, because it is the LLC that you're probably using to run your products and your services through. Very few entrepreneurs, number one, think about the long-term exit strategy of their business, meaning that if you have a certain product that you sell through your business, or products, if you have a certain service that you provide in your business, most likely your goal is not to just do that thing for the next 30, 40 years. Perhaps you're using that thing that you're doing to make money because you want to pivot into something else. And I think I speak for a lot of you as entrepreneurs. So, by the way, for those of you that are coming on, would you put in the comments what city you're watching me from? I really appreciate all of you that participate, that let us know what city you're watching us from. It does me well, my team well, and even other viewers, because we get a chance to go back on and we get a chance to look at where you're watching the Ramonepreston Show from. All right, so we're going to be talking about how to use a holding company. There are some common ways to use the holding company, and there are some creative ways to use the holding company. And today I'll probably get a chance to share with you one common way to use the holding company, and then one creative way to use the holding company. All right, so put in the comments what city you are watching us from on the Ramonepreston Show. I want to know where you're watching us from. I want to know where you are watching the Ramonepreston Show from. I really appreciate all of you that continue to watch the show. Even a lot of you that watch the Ramonepreston Show after the show airs live, you may go back and rewatch the replay. We've got someone on IG from Iraq. Good afternoon to you. I don't know what the time is there, but shout out to you. Thank you for being on the show live. And again, today I want to talk about how to use a holding company. All right. So for those of you that are not really familiar with the holding company concept, we talked about it yesterday on the show, and I explained to you that a holding company, LLC, is, okay, it's 7 p.m. where you at, all right? It's 12 here, so you all are ahead of us. So I explained to you that a holding company has a primary purpose, right? A primary purpose to hold assets. And so today we're going to talk about how to use your holding company. How do you actually use it? And hopefully, if I have time, I'll share with you one common way. Let me just put it over here. One common way, and then one creative way to use the holding company. So again, when you start a holding company LLC, you are essentially starting the same type of legal entity. Whether it's a holding company LLC or operating company LLC, it's still a LLC, right? It's still a LLC. What differentiates the holding company LLC from the operating company LLC is the primary purpose. So the primary purpose of the holding company is to hold assets, to hold copyrights, trademarks, intellectual property, ownership interests. Maybe you own businesses that are operating in the marketplace or businesses that are investing in the marketplace. Whatever the case is, the primary purpose of the holding company is to actually hold those assets or those ownership interests. The primary purpose of the operating company LLC is based on the industry that it's in. So if you set up an LLC as a restaurant, the primary purpose of that LLC is to be a restaurant. If you set up a drop shipping company, or if you set up a landscaping company or a trucking company or a real estate investment company, it may be specific to that industry. That would be the primary purpose. All right. So we're not talking about the difference between the two or the primary purposes. Today, I'm talking about if you have a holding company, LLC, or if you're thinking about starting a holding company, a lot of the questions that I get from people is, okay, well, if I start a holding company, but I still want to sell my products in another company or provide certain services in another company, and I have my holding company own the operating company, what is my holding company going to do? Like, what else is my holding company going to do other than hold the ownership interests? I don't want my holding company to just be a shell company or a dead company. I want it to actually operate on some level. Remember, just because the primary purpose of the holding company is to hold things as opposed to operate products and services, it doesn't mean your holding company can't do anything other than its primary purpose. The primary purpose doesn't mean the only purpose, okay? So I want to show you at least one common way and one creative way to use a holding company. So one of the common ways, and I have many different ways that I discuss inside of my course. Of course, I can't give it all to you right here. The purpose of me sharing this with you is to show you enough so that you know, okay, he knows what he's talking about. But at some point, if you want to get more information, I'm going to give you a number that you can reach out to me to get that information. We have a whole program centered around the holding company. So a common way to use the holding company, and this might not be common to you, but it's very common to most people who have holding companies, is for asset management. So using your holding company as an asset manager is a very common way for using the holding company. Because remember, if your holding company holds ownership interests, if your holding company, if this is you and this is your holding company, and your holding company owns other LLCs, that are doing business in the marketplace, well, by default, just by default, your holding company is actually an asset manager. How is it an asset manager? Because it's managing assets. It owns assets. It's holding assets. So your job here is not just to be a laborer in a business or an operator of a business, which most entrepreneurs are familiar with doing. Most entrepreneurs are laborers in businesses. So when an entrepreneur typically starts a business, they're just owning a job because they're used to laboring. Some entrepreneurs go beyond just a laborer and they become the operator. That means they manage the day-to-day operations of the business that sells the product or that provides the service. Very few entrepreneurs graduate or elevate to asset manager, meaning that most entrepreneurs are stuck here, running the business, selling the product, providing the service, dealing with customer service issues, marketing, selling, and it's okay to do that when you're building a business, when you're on the grind. I mean, I still do it every day. I still hustle and grind and market and sell and run a lot of the day-to-day operations. Even if I'm not running them fully, I know what they're doing, okay? So my point is, a very common way to use a holding company is to use it for the purpose of asset management. In order for you to use it as an asset manager, number one, you gotta have a holding company. Number two, you're gonna need some assets inside of the holding company that are able to make money. So this would be businesses that you own that are selling products and services. This would be investments that you have that are generating distributions back to you. This may even be certain assets that your holding company owns, like copyrights, trademarks, or intellectual property that you're licensing out that's giving you royalties or some residual income that you, as the asset manager of the holding company, are managing. So this is a very common way to use a holding company. And again, most of the times when you're using the holding company as an asset management company, the assets that you're managing, your holding company owns anyway. So it's not like you're managing other people's assets, but you could. But most of the times it's assets that you own. Now, why is this one common way so important for you to use even as a small business owner, a solopreneur? Because when you don't have a lot of resources, when you ain't got a lot of money, when you ain't got a whole lot of working capital, you ain't got credit lines that give you the flexibility to really go big on certain levels in your business, you have to create your own economy within your organization. See, this is one of the reasons why I talk so much about the holding company concept, because I found this concept to, number one, work for me as a solopreneur who didn't have a lot of money and a lot of resources. And so I started using this concept to create my own economy. And as I began to create my own economy, it then gave me the flexibility that I needed to start branching out to do other forms of business and to generate other streams of income that made it easier for me to focus on other things. So for example, if I have a holding company and I have one or two or three companies under it, or I have certain business activity under or inside of my holding company that's generating income, it makes it easier for me to use this whole operation as opposed to having one business over here, another business over there, a third business over there, but they're not together. So I can't make them look like one big operation when they're all separate. So for example, if you have 4 LLCs and you own all 4 and they're different LLCs in different industries doing different things, you're not consolidating them together. There's no consolidation. You want to consolidate them like this because now this gives the main company more power, more productivity, more flexibility. So there are a lot of benefits that come with it. I'm not getting into all that. I just want you to see that this is a common way to use the holding company, and that is for the purpose of asset management. So again, if your holding company is set up right and it owns or holds things that are assets, especially assets that can generate revenue, it not only makes the operating business more valuable, but it makes the overall owner of those operating businesses, which is the holding company, more valuable. Okay, so asset management is one of the common ways to use a holding company. Now, one last point I want to make on just the asset management side, and I mentioned it earlier. Remember, if you are setting up a holding company with other companies under it, and your goal is to use it for asset management purposes, you have to educate yourself on how to become an asset manager, because asset management is not just a mindset, it's also a skill set. Okay? So I want you to take that note. Asset management is mindset. Asset management is skill set. Why am I saying that? Well, because most asset managers, most entrepreneurs, no matter what type of business structure they own, most entrepreneurs are laborers. That's how most people start their business. Why do most entrepreneurs start their business as laborers? Because you good at something you can do. That's how me and my wife started our business. We started our business as a two-person real estate team. She had a real estate license. I was a great handyman. I learned carpentry, plumbing, electricity. I learned a lot of those things when I was young because my dad was a master carpenter. So I was able to pick up on a lot of those skill sets, and I started leveraging them once me and my wife got married, because I started putting two and two together. I realized that, oh, wow, I wanted to be in real estate. I wanted to be an agent at first. I wanted to be an investor. And once I realized that the work that I could do on real estate properties was tied to being a real estate agent and was tied to being a real estate investor, and I was like, oh, wow, I could actually make this thing work. But again, I didn't have money. I didn't have credit. I didn't have working capital. I didn't have, investors. I didn't have none of that stuff. So I had to scrap it out as a what? As a laborer. That's how most entrepreneurs start their businesses. At some point in your business, you may become an operator. You may become an operator. So that means you ain't just doing all the work. You're starting to outsource certain things, whether it's to VAs or to real in-person staff or vendors or subcontractors. But at some point, you're now operating your business activities in a way that gives you a little more flexibility to start leading it and doing other things that's more important to generate new revenue. But at some point, you want to graduate from operator and a laborer and become asset manager. In order for you to make that transition, it's mindset and skill set. You have to do that, because I know a lot of people, because I've helped them, who have holding companies, LLCs. They have operating companies, LLCs. They have the paperwork put together right. They have the corporate structure put together right, but they don't have the mindset or the skill set to run it. This is one of the reasons why I tell people, when you are thinking about creating a holding company with multiple entities under it, even if you pay someone to do the filing and the forming of the paperwork and the structure for you, if you don't have the mindset behind it and the skill set behind using that concept, all you're going to do is just have a whole lot of entities, and you're going to be overwhelmed, and you're not going to know what to do with it, right? You're just not going to know. You're going to wake up every day You're going to have 5 LLCs, EIN numbers, bank accounts, Duns and Bradstreet accounts, NAV accounts. You're going to be trying to get credit lines and credit cards and banking relationships with all of them, but you don't really understand how to run or manage the day-to-day operations of this whole enterprise. That is going to take education. It's going to take learning the concepts and the principles and the practices behind that type of entity. Okay, so one common way to use a holding company is asset management. All right, so let me give you an uncommon way, which is creative. And this is one of the most creative ways that I've used my holding company. And again, I've done it, so I know it works and I know how beneficial it could be. So one creative way to use your holding company is to use it for the purpose of consulting or coaching or education or all three. That's a very creative way. And I know this to be a creative way because a lot of people who understand holding companies, they only understand it from the perspective of the holding company LLC holding assets, holding ownership interests. I get people asking me that question all the time. Why should I run services like this through my holding company when a holding company is supposed to be for the purpose of holding? You don't supposed to do business. It ain't that you don't supposed to do business. The primary purpose may be to hold, but it's not the only purpose, especially when you're on the come up. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you're on the come up. So when you listen to people who might say, I don't do anything through my holding company. Well, they might be in a different position than you. They might already have assets that make money. They might already have businesses that are successful. They might already be at a different place financially that they have the flexibility and the freedom to have a holding company and do nothing through it. Most of us who are scrapping like laborers every day, we don't have the luxury of starting entities and not using them entities to make some kind of money. Most of us don't have the luxury to do that. So what that means is we've got to get what? Creative. We can't just stay common. So this is a very creative way. All right? So what do you mean by this being a creative way to use a holding company? So it's a lot that goes into this, right? But let me just explain something to you. I'm going to see if I could just simplify a piece of it. So one of the concepts, creative concepts that I teach about the holding company is a concept called the SMS Matrix. The SMS Matrix. It is an acronym for structure, marketing, and sales. All right. This is a creative concept that I teach regarding the holding company. It's the SMS Matrix. Structure, marketing, and sales. And what this concept teaches you is how to take your holding company and use it to position your business and yourself as a brand. All right? This is a very creative way to use a holding company, to position your business and yourself as a brand so that you can get the most attention and the most value for yourself and for your business, which legally is structured as a holding company, but you're marketing it as a consulting company, as a coaching company, as an educational company, because you're able to run these services through a holding company as opposed to starting other entities for these services. Now, the challenge with this is, number one, you have to learn the concept to become more familiar with how do you use this business structure of a holding company to provide consulting through, to provide coaching through, to provide education through. Because these services, when you run them through a holding company, they become divisions of your holding company. It's similar to you walking into a supermarket And when you walk into the supermarket, it's one store, but certain items are on aisle 1, certain items are on aisle 2, certain items are on aisle 10. So depending on what someone needs when they walk in the door, the traffic is going to be directing them to that aisle based on what they want. So if you properly position yourself and your holding company the right way, this is why I call it the SMS Matrix, structure, marketing, and sales, because the structure of this company can be a holding company, because the future purpose primarily may be for it to just hold assets. But if you're on the come up and you're trying to make money, I wouldn't tell you to start a holding company, to start a separate consulting company, a separate coaching company, a separate educational company, unless you are already making enough money that you can afford to have multiple entities and you have multiple staff members and you have multiple liabilities. Then it would make sense. But if you are a solopreneur, but you're being introduced to concepts like the holding company and trust, and you want this infrastructure built now because you're not going to wait, you want to do it now, and you know you're still waking up every day trying to figure out how to make money, then this is a creative way to get the most out of an entity like a holding company that you would otherwise have nothing going on inside of it, okay? So if you've been watching the show for the last 20, 30 something odd minutes, I've shared with you 2 ways to use a holding company. There are many other ways that you can use a holding company. I gave you one common way and one creative way. The common way is to use your holding company as an asset manager. But again, that's only going to benefit your holding company financially is if the assets that it manages are actually making money. So if it's not making, if the assets that your holding company owns are not making money, then they can't really pay your holding company an asset management fee. So a lot of times people try to implement these strategies when some of these strategies are really tax saving strategies. But why are you trying to save on taxes for money you're not making? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I think a lot of times we complicate things and we mix a lot of information together because we hear people like Ramonepreston on the internet telling us stuff. But at some point, you got to get centrally focused on what is most important for me based on where I am. That's the biggest thing. Because a lot of solopreneurs, they're trying to build businesses and run businesses like entrepreneurs or business owners who are far ahead of them. See, I'm teaching you principles, and sometimes people tell me that, oh, what you teaching and what you're talking about is so simple, it's so basic, it's so one-on-one. Well, that's the purpose. The purpose is to make it easy to understand. Because sometimes when you try to skip the basic steps of starting a business, structuring a business, integrating the right systems and processes, positioning yourself properly, pricing and packaging your products and services. When you try to skip all those steps because you done got this whiff of excitement and you want to just go out into the world and crush it to make $10 million, you find yourself failing over and over again because you didn't do it right the first time. I would rather you take the time to do it right, even if it's a conservative step you're taking to do it right. Even if you're delaying opportunities to do it right, at least you won't have to continue to do it again. Now, there's some things you might have to just take a risk on, but why take a risk on certain things that you shouldn't because you're not willing to just do it right the first time? So if you're watching today's show, whether you have a holding company or not, if you have a holding company or LLCs and you're not sure if it's structured right, I want you to reach out to me this week. My team and I, we have opened our schedule up to provide free business assessments. So that means if you reach out to us, we'll take a few minutes to hear you out on what type of business structure you have or what type of business structure that you think you need. and we'll give you some tips and some different angles for what you need to do for that particular business. Okay, so that means if you have LLCs already set up and you just want to make sure that they're structured right, then you can reach out to us. If you don't have LLC set up, or if you don't have a holding company and you need to figure out what the best route is to take, meaning that you might want to educate yourself. You might want to educate yourself. Hold up. You might want to educate yourself on, my phone is going out. I'm getting calls coming in. I know people on IG, I know they're going to be sick because I just lost reception. But if you don't have a holding company and you want to know what direction you want to go, we'll take a few minutes to see what you want to do and what is the best structure you need to set up for the things that you want to do. So all you have to do is reach out to us today. We're making ourselves available. I've already talked to my team yesterday. Coming into this week, I told them that if anybody reaches out to us and texts the word holding, what you're telling me is that you've probably watched the show this week and you want to take me up on a free business assessment so that we can take a few minutes to assess either your current business structure or a business structure that you're thinking about putting together. You just need to get direction on what the most important steps are that you need to take. So that could be filing and forming your paperwork. That could be restructuring your current corporate entities. Maybe you want a holding company, but you have existing LLCs. You want to figure out how you could transfer the ownership of the existing ones to the new one. Or maybe you're just starting out fresh. Whatever the case is, just text holding to 678-276-8253. So all you have to do, text the word holding to 678-276-8253. Miss Lula Battle, one of our mentees, faithful mentee, she said, that's what I'm doing, taking my time to do it right. You're doing an awesome job. You're working very diligently with your entity structure, with your systems, your processes, your products and services. I've been working with you, watching you, and you're doing an amazing job. So for all of you that are watching me right now, if you had an opportunity to hear the entire discussion today on the show, please put in the comments what your biggest takeaway was from today's show. All right, I shared with you 2 ways to use a holding company. I shared with you a common way, and I shared with you one creative way. And again, I have several different common and creative ways you can use a holding company. All of you that just came back on, my apologies. You know, on Instagram, when somebody is calling through, it just kicks you out. But again, today we talked about how to use a holding company. I gave you one common way to use it, that is for the purpose of asset management, and one creative way, that is for you to run your top tier services through your holding company, which is doable. Your consulting, coaching, or education, if that's the angle that you want to take. There are many other ways you can use a holding company. And again, if you don't have a holding company, but you've heard a lot of information about it, and you want to know what steps you need to take to start and structure one, maybe you already have an existing LLC and you don't know how to start a holding company and put the existing company under the new holding company, or you just have multiple entities and you feel like you're all over the place, we're offering this week, we're offering free business assessments. So what that means is you just text the word holding to this number, and my team and I, we're going to reach out to you. We'll just take a few minutes over the phone to get an idea of what you're doing in business, how your structure is set up, and or if you don't have a structure or businesses, what steps you need to take to actually get it started, especially if you know you want to do it right the first time. When it comes to your entity structure, I believe that you should try to do it the right way the first time and not just start where you are and then work your way somewhere, because what happens is when you do that, you're going to always end up having to hit the reset button and redo things when you shouldn't always have to do it when you're getting started, if you know what the end will actually look like and how easy that transition is. So even if at some point you're looking at starting a trust and you want to transfer the ownership of your businesses to a trust, well, if you already have a holding company set up and is structured right with other entities under it, it makes the transition from holding company to trust even easier for you because you already understand the concept. So if that's where you're going and that's where you know you want to get to, you want to make sure you're doing it right now, even if you ain't got a whole lot of assets, but you just scrapping. This is where some of the creative strategies comes in at, so you can start making some extra money. All right? Lula said, I'm doing it the creative way to be able to consult, train, and instruct. So if you've been watching, let me know what the biggest takeaway was from today's show. Put it in the comments. I appreciate you. All of you that are students inside of our Millionaire Blueprint, you already have access to all of our courses. Congratulations to you. Let us know in the chat that you are a student. If you are a mentee and you're inside of our Millionaire Mentorship program, not only do you have access to the courses, but you also have access to all of our weekly calls and our quarterly workshops. Let us know if you're watching and you're a mentee or a student. I want other viewers to know that we have real students, we have real mentees. It's so amazing because just this past week, last week, we had a student, someone who was a student. They actually bought our holding company program. All right. They bought the program, the courses, because they wanted to learn how to start and structure their holding company, and they wanted to do it themselves. So we have a DIY, do-it-yourself holding company program. It has all the courses in it. It has walkthrough video tutorials. It has all the documents and forms for your operating agreement, everything that you need to start a holding company LLC and operating company LLCs. We show you how to structure it, how to restructure it, and how to use it. It's an entire program. So anyway, the gentleman, he bought the program months ago, but he was never really able to go through all the courses to put his holding company and his operating subsidiaries together. So finally, after several months of just working and grinding, and he out there doing what he does, he's not in the business of starting and structuring holding companies. He don't really have the time to go through all the courses. So he decided when he was visiting Atlanta, I think coming from California somewhere, he just wanted to come by the office before he paid us the money to file and form the paperwork to put his corporate structure together. But that was a blessing to me, the fact that somebody wanted to just come by, see me in person, see our office, meet our staff, because they talk to people on our staff all the time. And it was a blessing that this person could get a peace of mind to know that, okay, this ain't just some internet guy, you know, in his bedroom with a made up studio, acting like he got a real business. So that was a blessing. I appreciate that all the time. So anyway, all of you that are students and mentees, anytime you join our lives, let the world know that you are a student. Let the world know you are a mentee. And let the world know that you're getting benefits and results from not only the courses that we give to you, but the mentorship that we give to you. It's one of a kind. And so I appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining the show today. Again, if you have any questions about your corporate structure, if you're not sure how to put your corporate structure together, if you know you want to build an enterprise, but you just don't know how to do it right, we're going to offer you a free business assessment. It only takes a couple minutes. It's not going to take long. You can just text holding to the number. We'll call you back. And if it's a good time, We'll take a few minutes to go over what you're looking at doing and what we think is the best route to take, and you can go from there. We'll let you know what type of information you need, what type of forms you need, what type of structures, LLCs you need, what needs to be a business entity, what could be a division. We'll go through that with you. And as I said, we just had a client last week who had the same similar situation, and he didn't have the time to take courses. He needed us to do the actual work, but he wanted to understand it. I want you to be educated on what other people are doing. I don't want you to just be paying people to do stuff and you don't know what they're doing. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining the show today. We'll be back tomorrow right here, same place, same time on the Ramonepreston Show. Peace.